All right, I'll say, how are you all this evening of your time as you create time to exist? Are you all there?
Yes.
Very good, thank you very much. We begin this interaction this evening of your time with the entitlement, equality, and grounding. Allow us now to explain. Very often, within your society and many other societies, not particularly yours, when the individuals within that society become, shall we say, introduced to the ideas of expanding consciousness, of self-awareness, of, in fact, that you do create your own reality. Shall we say, with the adoption of that new belief system, very often we have noticed a propensity for individuals to begin to live that out initially through older belief systems, through older belief concepts. Therefore, one of the notions that does, again, usually only initially arise when exploring the ideas of higher consciousness is the separation of the new ideas from the old. In a sense, very many individuals do decide that their new belief system is better than their old, that there is a qualitative difference. To this, we espouse that there is not. And in fact, this is a form of invalidating the old belief system. Very often, when exploring the idea of higher consciousness, it is considered a separate issue from physicality. And the idea does arise that spirituality or non-physicality is somehow better, qualitatively speaking, than physicality. That in fact a denial of physicality is the only way, some individuals will tell you, to be able to begin to live in a spiritual way. Now, we are not saying that this is not a valid belief, for all beliefs are valid. However, we do notice a propensity in this train of thinking to deny your physicality. Allow us to say at this timing, and again to remind you, for you already know this on some level, as you create yourself in levels, you have chosen to be here. You have chosen to be physical. Therefore, denying what you have chosen, in a sense, is denying yourself, denying your exploration. So allow us to say that there is, in fact, equality in every realm. In a sense, speaking more literally, all emanates from the same prime source of infinite creation anyway. In that sense, is all made of the same, if you will, material. Simply that physicality is a denser representation of that material. But no less quality, no less qualitatively speaking, equal expressions of the same prime vibration of infinite creation. Therefore, allow us to expand this to the idea that there is nothing any less spiritual about physicality. And in fact, it is but an expression of your spirituality, if you will but allow yourself to see this idea. So therefore, you may now use your physicality in a spiritual way. Not, as in the old belief system, make the separation that it is this or that. You are physical or you are spiritual. It is this and that. You are both. And you might manifest both simultaneously. And find when you do, the effect will be additive, enhancing. As your colloquial language says, synergistic. Allowing, in that sense, the whole to be more, seemingly, than the sum total of the parts. So, allow yourself to resume taking back your responsibility for having chosen to experience physicality. When adapting a new belief system, you may now allow yourself to create that physicality a little bit more consciously, a little bit more according to preference. But it is not that you are escaping from earth in that sense to get to heaven. No. The idea of grounding in that sense is simply to, again, put your spiritual ideas into physicality, into action. The key in that sense is applicability. Apply the knowledge across the board. That is what will keep you grounded. That is what will allow you to be a conscious example of that which you have chosen in a preferential way. And within your society, this is the strongest way, in a sense, to share this information, by being a living example of it, and not, in fact, simply espousing it and continuing in your old habitual rituals. You may now begin to recognize that you can apply all of these principles. For we would be unable to, in a sense, impart them to you, and you would be unable to understand them, to have them ring true with you, were you not able to integrate the two. Were they not, in actuality, simply two sides of the same one coin? It is all well and good. The idea you label moving with the premise of unconditional love. All well and good. It is a very loving space, as you say, to come from. However, all that, in a sense, means very little unless you are willing to practice, apply unconditional love. Therefore, you may now recognize what we shared with you is not merely airy philosophy. It is mechanics. When we say it, it is philosophy. However, when you choose, if you should, we do not insist that you do. If you choose to use it, it becomes mechanics. It becomes physics and has that much reality behind it. We do never insist that you believe what we say anyway, because it is we who are saying it, for we cannot simply prove it verbally. But you, as we have said very often, can prove it to yourself by putting it into action, by applying it. So therefore, to recap, by equalizing ideas which you don't prefer and ideas which you do prefer, by equalizing them to the same level, you allow yourself equal access to either. And this is how everything becomes then a choice, with as much momentum or ability to choose it. And it is that simple. So by granting equality to all ideas, the old, the new, the unpreferred, the preferred, you give yourself equal access to them. By then applying the idea that you now consciously choose, you are grounding yourself. You are using the physicality that you have chosen to experience. And in that sense, grounding yourself within your chosen reality. Therefore, we'll sum it up in that sense with a phrase we have used before. It is all right. It is okay to have your head in the clouds. Simply keep your feet firmly planted on the ground. That will allow the circuit of the being that you are to function most effectively, most fluidly. And in that sense, again, it is all applicable. You can apply it. You can, rather than having the idea of escaping to heaven from earth, simply in your own personal, individual, experiential reality, create heaven on earth, and then live in action that way. By your doing so, you automatically, by performing the action, change the vibration of who you are. It is, as we have said, the actions that determine the manifestation of what you will experience. Not the thoughts, but the actions. The belief systems determine it, but they determine it because when you believe something, you act as though you believe it. So it still boils down to the action phase, how you are acting. Recognize that it is your choice to choose to live the life you prefer, simply by owning what's already there. Therefore, when you begin to create consciously, there may be a few remnants in your reality of the stuff that you have created unconsciously before you were made aware that you created all. And they may have certain momentum behind them, seemingly, that will play itself out, as you say, end its cycle. The way to end it most quickly is to own what's already there. Now, what do we mean by that? Simply that whatever comes along in your life that you do not prefer for some reason, do not assume that it is extraneous. Then you do not look at it, deal with it, integrate it, and make it conscious. You push it aside, and then it gets bigger and noisier till you, in a sense, force yourself to look at it. The unpreferred, in that sense, experiences in your life, in general, are the things you have refused to look at that have gotten quite large and nasty and are now demanding that you see them. If you will but acknowledge them as your children, for you have borne them, literally, and in any given situation, glean not the obvious, what is a bummer, as you say, about it, but how does this serve me exactly as it is? Even by asking yourself that question, you are speaking as an owner, because you are pre-assuming that you have created it. Now let me allow it to work for me. When I have just seen the, quote, negativity that's obvious on the surface, it has not gone away. It keeps coming back in that regard. Well, it does not keep coming back in actuality, for everything is always anew. But it does take on the seemingness of a continuity. And how you can break any repetitive seeming process in your life is to glean the reason you have created it positively. When you do, when any symbol that you create delivers the message it was created for, it transforms. That is simply physics. It does not hang around. It is gone. It has served its function. So now when things come up in your life that you do not prefer, if you wish, we will not force you. You can get very excited. You can change your perspective to think that this is an opportunity to get to the last of those things that I have submerged within the layers I have created within my consciousness. It is an opportunity. Again, it is generally quite obvious what is negative about it. So why keep on labeling these things the same way? Everything is only a neutral occurrence anyway, and you assign the meaning. The meaning you assign gives you the effect, the experience you get out. So why not, just for fun, decide consciously to allow symbols to serve you, to go one step further than getting all upset or the actual mechanism creating upsetness, and glean why it is there, using it to decide what you still believe that you do not prefer. Once you get a belief that you have, that you do not prefer, once you admit to yourself, yes, I do indeed believe this, then you own it. Then you can change it. But if you simply deny to yourself what it is you believe, because you don't want to think you're the type of person to believe it, back into the closet it goes, to grow and get noisier. You have seen this mechanism very many times in action. We need not espouse any more upon it. What many of you have not seen is your alternative choice, looking at it as an opportunity. Now that we have simply presented this to you, you have another chance, as you say, to proceed in that way, to act as an owner of the reality you create anyway. Remember, even if you decide that you do not create your own reality, you are creating that. And it is, in that sense, always your choice to take back the power to create it consciously. For when you decide that you do not create your own reality, you keep creating it, but simply you create it unconsciously. You create it according to the winds of change you perceive to be without you, but it's all within you. And you can stop the idea of these winds and allow it to transform into a sunny day in your existence. So therefore, allow us now to proceed in interaction with you. For we do appreciate quite greatly the opportunity that we have been given by your allowance to communicate with your society in this way, to know just how many more marvelous wonders are present within the multiverse. This experience, these interactions, are relished greatly by our society. In that sense, we see them as the primary gifts of creation. So for your willingness to share the gift of the consciousness that you are, I ask you now, how may I be of service to you? Sharing